Hello guys, welcome to the channel. Today we'll be doing a PC rig build using the Deepcool Matrexx 55 mesh PC case, and I'm going to be using the component that I have taken out from my other PC. If you haven't seen that video, you can check it by the link in the description. It is going to be helpful if you look into disassemble your computer and you want to pull out all the components and without breaking anything. Also, if you want to check out the review for the Deepcool Matrexx 55 mesh PC case, you can check it by the link in the description, and I'll put a link in the upper right corner. There you can find out more details about this case and why it is a really good choice if you're trying to build a budget level PC rig. You're going to get a really good airflow and good aesthetics. But in this video, we're going to be putting all the components in these PCs, starting with the power supply, motherboard, RAM, everything. So this is going to be a good guide for the beginners. If you want to know how to assemble your own PC, I'm going to show you on this example using the Deepcool Matrexx 55 mesh case. And this is the case that I bought for myself. This is not a sponsored video, so you're going to be looking at exactly what this case looks like. And I'm going to give you my opinion, what I like about it, what I don't like about it. So stay tuned. And before we start, if you're new to the channel, please take a second to subscribe. If you will find this video helpful, support it with a like. I appreciate it guys very much. And if you will get any questions, comments, drop them down in the comment section below. I'll be really happy to read those comments and help you if I can. But without further ado, let's get started. So this case comes packaged very nicely. It's got a styrofoam on top, it's got a styrofoam on the bottom, which protects it from any impact. And it is also wrapped in the plastic bag, so this should protect it from scratching. Okay, so first of all, let's go ahead and remove the tempered glass side panel. The tempered glass side panel is held by 4 thumb screws, so you don't need any tools to take it off. And the thumb screws come with rubber washers to protect it from any vibration. So this is another cool thing. This is a 4mm tempered glass. This is not acrylic glass, neither it's plastic, so this is really nice to have an actual glass. And it is tempered glass, so it is safe. In case there is going to be an impact, it's just going to shatter and you're not going to cut yourself. So this is very nice. Then you also get in some additional fasteners as well. These are the screws that you're going to need to attach your PC components inside the case. So this is really nice that they actually supply you with these fasteners and you didn't have to look for them. Let's go ahead and remove the other side panel. It is held by the 2 thumb screws as well. So again, you don't need any tools to take it apart. Just gotta unscrew these 2 thumb screws and then just pull it to the back and it's gonna come out. The other side panel is completely blank. There is nothing there. It's absolutely flat. As you can see, there are a few cables located on the other side. We can see there is a USB 3.0 cable, the cable for the HD audio and microphone, the USB 2.0 cable, and of course your power button and your reset button. So all these connectors are going to be connecting to the motherboard. We don't need them right away, but we want to untie them first because we're going to need to remove the front panel. And if they're tied to the case, you might rip off some cables, which you don't want to do. So first of all, you want to untie these cables from the case, and then we can remove the front side panel. To remove the front panel, you need to push these little clips inward, and then at the same time, you need to pull the front panel out. It could be a little bit tricky because these clips are a little bit tight, so you have to press them in pretty hard and then pull the front panel. But to do it at the same time is pretty difficult, and because there are a few of those clips, the front panel is attached pretty firmly. So now we got the front panel off. Let's go ahead and pull out the cables. We're not going to need the cables right now, so let's just remove them. And as you can see, the front panel is really good. It gives you a lot of air intake. There is no filter there, it's just the mesh, so you're not going to have to clean the filter, which could be good, but then on another hand, you're getting dust inside the case. Okay, so finally, once we got all the side panels and the front panel removed, let's go ahead and first install the water cooling because it's going to be one of the biggest components, and I just want to see how it's going to look. So I'm going to go ahead and mount the 360 radiator for the CPU on the front panel. The construction of the case allows you to mount a variety of different fans. You can mount up to 3 120mm fans up front or 2 140mm fans. Also, you can install a 360 water cooling radiator up front. Plus, you can install 3 120mm fans as well. So this is what I'm gonna do. And I'm gonna position these fans so they're gonna be for the intake. This way, they're gonna intake the cold air from the outside and they're gonna cool down the radiator. And then I'm gonna install the exhaust fan on the back and 2 exhaust fans on the top. So this is supposed to be working pretty good for the airflow. Let's go ahead and mount the radiator. So originally there were 3 120mm fans from the Thermaltake radiator, but I have decided to upgrade them with Arctic fans. And since I only needed 2 extra fans for the case, I decided not to buy 3 Arctic fans and to buy only 2 Arctic fans, even though these Arctic fans look way better. But since these are not the RGB fans, they're not going to be really visible from underneath the mesh, so it doesn't really matter, and there is no need to spend extra money on something that you don't need. So I have decided to install 2 Arctic fans up front because they have better CFM, and then use other 2 Thermaltake fans on the upper exhaust on the top, so it should be working pretty good. As you can see, this case easily allows you to mount a 360 radiator. There is a cutout in the PSU and hard drive shroud, so you can install a 360mm radiator. And this is very smart because otherwise you wouldn't be able to install 360 and you would only be able to install 240mm. And in my opinion, the bigger radiator you get, the better cooling you get and the better performance you get overall in your system. So there is definitely no need to cheap out on radiators or cooling for your PC. And if you buy fans separately, consider to get the longer cable because then it will be easier to power them. In my case, the cables were very short and I had hard time to actually reach to the power source on the motherboard, so I had to use an extension. And this is another way how you can feed power to these fans. If your cables are too short, you can get an extension for them and then they work no problem. But if you already get in fans separately, consider to buy one with a longer cable, then you won't have that issue. So the next step, let's go ahead and install the power supply. Since I have a modular power supply, I'm only going to connect the cable that I'm going to need for this PC rig. If you have a power supply that you cannot disconnect the cables, then you're just going to use all the cables and you can hide the extra cables in the compartment on the other side of the case. So first of all, we're going to need the motherboard power cable. Next, let's go ahead and install the CPU power cable. This is just a regular 6-pin connector. Then we also need the cable for the VGA. This is going to be for our graphic card. Then we also need the SATA power cable to supply power to our hard drives, to our SSD drives. The good thing about this case is that it has a PSU shroud, so it's going to hide your power supply underneath and it's not going to be visible from the transparent side. And all the cables going to be hidden in the cable management compartment, so you're not going to see them as well. But it is actually pretty hard to install the modular power supply in this case because the modular power supplies, they have the extra connector which sticks out, so you have less room to work with. As you can see, it fits, but it's pretty tight there. The good thing is these cables are pretty flexible, so they can bend pretty good. As you can see, I have just perfect amount of room for this power supply. Then we're gonna need to attach 4 screws on the back to attach our power supply to the case. I like the modular power supplies because you can install only the cables that you need. There is no need to have the cables that you don't need for this PC rig. But on another hand, modular power supplies, they're more expensive. And also having an extra connector from the power supply to the cable might have an influence on efficiency because you're having an extra connection where there's going to be some drop of power as well. But honestly, that drop is minimal. So if you can buy a modular power supply, I would recommend getting one like this because then you're not going to have a bunch of cables just hanging from the power supply that you're never going to use. Alright, so once we got all our screws tight, now it's time to get to the next step and install the hard drives. There are 2 3.5-inch drive bays for the hard drives, and they're also located in the shroud, so they're not going to be visible from the outside. And they're also held by one screw, so it's very easy to remove them. There is no quick release, so you need a screwdriver to actually change the hard drive. The trays for the hard drive can fit a 3.5-inch and also 2.5-inch hard drives, or you can also install the 2.5-inch SSD drive there as well. But they're mainly designed for the 3.5-inch hard drives. Okay, let's go ahead and put our hard drives. So once you pull out this tray, you just gotta attach 2 screws on the bottom. This way it will eliminate any vibration. I find that having 2 bays for the 3.5-inch drives is sufficient, but of course if there could be more, that would be better. But because nowadays most people using SSD drives, I think having 2 hard drive bays is enough, because especially hard drives nowadays are so big, 2 bays will be enough. I'm also going to put another hard drive as well. Let's go ahead and put this hard drive trays in place. Once we got our hard drives in place, let's go ahead and install the SSD drives as well. The SSDs are mounted straight on the other side of the case, and you can mount up to two 2.5-inch SSDs on the side. So altogether you get a maximum of 4 SSDs. You can mount 2 on the side of the panel, plus you can use those 3.5-inch trays to mount 2 more SSDs. But because I already have 2 hard drives in there, I'm only going to install 1 SSD. So you got to put the screws from the inside of the case. So you just got to hold the SSD and then just put screws through the other side of the case. Alright, so the SSD is mounted. Let's go ahead and get to the next step. Now let's go ahead and install the motherboard. As you can see, there are holes in the case. These are the holes where you need to install the standoffs for the motherboard. So depending what size motherboard you have, if you have a mini AXT, micro AXT, regular AXT, or extended AXT, you just need to put those standoffs in place. And as you can see, you can mount all the way up to the extended AXT. So this case can handle any motherboard you throw at it, which is really good. It gives you a variety of different options, so you can build from basic to enthusiast PC rig with this case, which is really good, especially for its price. Once you get all these standoffs in place, you just put the motherboard in and then just use the screws to screw the motherboard to those standoffs. So it's going to be sitting pretty firm. Alright, so once we got our motherboard in, let's go ahead and install the water cooling for the CPU. We already have got the radiator in, so we're just going to connect the pump to the CPU cover. So first of all, we're going to apply some thermal paste to the CPU. As you can see, I've just put an X. You can use a variety of different shapes, it doesn't really matter. There is an argument going on which shape you should put and which shape works better. But honestly, after trying a variety of different methods, it doesn't matter, it doesn't change much. The main thing you need to consider, just don't put too much or don't put too less, because if you put too much, it's just gonna squeeze out and it's just gonna get thermal paste all over your motherboard. Or if you don't put enough, then it won't have a good connection between the CPU and the cooler, so it won't be transferring heat very good. After you have applied the thermal paste, go ahead and put the water cooling pump or your cooler if you have the air cooler. Go ahead and twist those 4 latches. I recommend twisting them crisscross so that you apply the pressure evenly. And after you close those 4 latches, just go ahead and use the screwdriver to make it tighter. Don't apply too much force, just make sure it's snug and it's not gonna go anywhere. There we go, so our CPU cooler is installed in place. We also have a power cable for the pump. We're just gonna attach it to the water tubes, so it's not gonna be hanging and will look much neater. I'm just using a small zip tie to do that. Now let's go ahead and install the RAM. I got 4 DDR4 RAM sticks, RIP-Jaw 4. This is a pretty old memory, but it still works good. And before you install RAM into your motherboard, make sure to check out your manual and see the proper pattern how to install the memory modules. On different motherboards it could be different, because if you don't install them in proper pattern, it may not work right and you may not get the dual channel, or it may not work at all. Also, there is a notch on the memory module as well as on the motherboard slot. So you just need to align this notch and put it in. It's not going to go the other way, and you also cannot mix and match different types of memory like DDR4 or DDR3 or DDR2. They're all going to be having a notch in a different spot, so you cannot put them in, as well as you cannot put it in reverse. And if it doesn't go in before you push too hard, make sure to check it, because this could be the problem, and sometimes it's kind of hard to see in the case because it could be dark there and it's hard to see if you put in it properly. Also, another quick tip, you just gotta put it straight in and then push at 2 sides. This way it will go in pretty easy, and you gotta hear the click once it's installed. If you don't hear a click, it may not be installed all the way, and then it's not gonna be recognized by your computer, and you may not get all the memory that you have installed. Okay, so the memory is installed. Let's get to the next step. So my initial idea was to install 1 exhaust fan on the back, but then I have changed this idea because I needed to put a radiator for the graphic card somewhere, and I didn't want to put it to the top, so I decided to put it on the back, and I had to reinstall it after. The PCIe slot covers in this case are not reattachable, so if you remove them you will not be able to reattach them, so make sure to exactly find which slot you need to open, otherwise there is going to be a hole there and it's just not going to look good. So I have already figured which slot I'm going to use for the graphic card, and I'm going to need to open these two PCIe slots. As you can see, I even had to move the motherboard because I didn't do that in the first place. And now I couldn't even take off this PCIe cover slot because you have to bend them in. If there would be a screw to unscrew, then it would be a lot easier. But because they're not reattachable, you just bend them in and they break off. And after that, they're not going to be reattached. But this is not a big deal. As long as you know which PCIe slots you're going to be using, you can just remove those PCIe slot covers. And most people won't need to reattach them anyway, because you're only going to need to reattach them in that case if you're replacing your graphic card. But why would you remove the graphic card if you need the graphic card for your PC to work? So yeah, this is an argument that's not really worth talking about. But anyway, let's get to the next step and install the graphic card. To install the graphic card, you just need to put it into the PCIe slot. Just put it straight in. Don't put it at an angle. Don't twist it. And once you put the graphic card in, you just need to attach it with a screw so it's going to be held in place. And after that, of course, we need to install the radiator to the exhaust on the back. Because I have a hybrid graphic card, it has a water cooling. And because we already installed a 360 radiator in the front, and I have two water pipes already going across the case, I didn't want to have another two hoses going across the case as well, going to the top of the case. So I decided to use the rear exhaust for that. I think this is going to be better, and then I'm going to install two fans on the top. So altogether I'm going to have three intake fans in front. I'm going to have two exhaust fans on top and one exhaust fan on the back, which is going to give me an even airflow and it's going to cool down the components really good. Now it's time to connect all the cables and we're almost done. First of all, let's go ahead and connect the power cable to the motherboard. Then let's go ahead and connect the power cable to the graphic card. Then we need to connect the power cable to the CPU. It's located in not very comfortable place, but we'll still need to get to it. As you can see, it's located on the very top of the motherboard, 12-volt connector. And of course, we already have the two fans installed. If it's difficult to install, we can unscrew one fan, but I think I can handle it. Then let's go ahead and connect the SATA cable and power cable to the hard drive and SSD drive. Then connect the USB 3.0 from the front panel to the motherboard. As you can see, there is a connector on the motherboard, so we need to connect it. In order for the front ports to work, you need to connect the USB 3.0 as well as USB 2.0, audio HD, microphone, power, and reset button as well. You can recognize USB 3.0 by the blue color connector. And on the motherboard, you just gotta find exact same connector with the same amount of pins and connect it. Then let's go ahead and connect the USB 2.0. The USB 2.0 ports are located on the bottom of the motherboard, as well as HD audio and microphone. And the good thing is they have the cutout on the bottom of the shroud at the bottom of the motherboard, so we can feed the cables through that hole and then we can connect them so they're not going to be visible. As you can see, we only got a little bit of cable visible from this side. The rest of the cable is going to be located on the other side, which is going to be blank, where you're not going to see it. The same thing we're going to do with HD audio. And I also have installed the PCIe expansion card. This is the M2 NVMe expansion card. It came with this motherboard. I have never used it, but I have just decided to install it anyway in case I'm going to buy another M2 NVMe SSD drive. This way I already have it installed and I can just use it. The next thing, you need to connect the power and reset button. And for that, there is adapters that you can use that's going to allow you to connect them all in one piece. Because these connectors are so small, you can have an adapter. Usually these adapters, they come with the motherboard. So you need to connect the power cable to where it says power on the adapter. If you don't have this adapter, you can connect it straight to the motherboard. You just need to look on the manual in your motherboard to see where this power connector is, and then just connect it the same way. Then you gotta do the same with the reset button cable. You can see there is a power switch and reset switch. They're all on the same adapter, and I also put a speaker as well because I have a speaker, and I like to have the speaker because I know what's going on. It gives you different beeps if something goes wrong. Then you don't have to dig for it and find out what's wrong with it. So usually it tells you if there's something wrong with the graphic card, RAM, or other issues. Then we also need to connect the power LED connectors. This will show us when we press the power button, it will illuminate. And then we just gotta connect it to the motherboard, and there's only one way you can connect it. It's not gonna fit other ways, so don't worry, you're not gonna break it. Just gotta align the pins with holes, and then you're just gonna slide right in. Okay, so we're almost done. Almost everything's connected. So yeah, this is how it's gonna look. Unfortunately, we cannot hide it, so it's gonna have to stay there. So as you can see, it's kind of going to be sticking out quite a bit. So what I'm going to do, I'm actually not going to use the adapter, and I'm just going to connect all these connectors straight to the motherboard. This way it's not going to look that bad, because I don't like how it looks with that adapter. It just sticks out too far and it looks ugly. So let's just go ahead and connect the power switch, reset switch, the power LED, reset LED, and the speaker straight to the motherboard. This way it's not going to take much room, and as you can see, it already looks much neater. And we can actually hide that speaker in this hole in the shroud. This way it will look even cleaner. Alright, this is it, moment of truth. Everything's connected, everything is installed. Let's go ahead and connect the power cable and turn it on and see if it's working. Alright, so the LED is on. All the fans start spinning. So yeah, everything seems to be working. There is no error beep, so this is good. So once you assemble everything, once you connect everything, you want to make sure turn it on to test it, to see if it's actually working. Don't put it together until you know that everything is working. Let's go ahead and turn on the monitor, see if it's actually started. As you can see, Asus, it starts to load. There we go, so the computer is on. Perfect, everything is working. So yeah, after we have checked everything's working, we can do the final assembly, put the front panel back, put the side panel back, and yeah, there we go. This is how the cables look on the other side. It looks pretty messy, but what can you do? You can't get rid of the cables, so they gotta be there. And the good thing is the other side is blank, so you're not gonna see them anyway, so it will look pretty neat. So the computer is fully assembled. I hope you guys find this video helpful. Hope this will help somebody to assemble their own computer. If you have questions, drop them down in the comment section below. I hope you guys find this video helpful. If you like it, please support it with a like. Subscribe to the channel for more interesting, helpful videos. If you want to also check out my other videos, I appreciate very much. I have another video about the review of this case if you want to check that out. And I also have another video how to disassemble a PC without breaking anything. So if you want to disassemble your PC, or if you want to take out any component from your PC, you can watch that video and it's going to help you do that. But yeah, this is it for now. I hope you guys have a nice day and see you soon. Bye bye.